about that today with my guest and many other things. By the way, there's plenty to talk about with him. He is returning to the podcast. He is Mike Davis. He is the founder and president of the Article 3 Project, an amazing organization, but he also worked for Chuck Grassley and advised the Senate on judiciary appointments. So he knows the ins and outs of all of this. So we're going to get to Mike Davis on the other side of this break. Welcome back, everybody. As promised, returning to the podcast, a close friend of the TV show and this podcast, my friend, the founder and president of the Article 3 Project, Mike Davis. Mike, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Amanda.
My pleasure. Okay, let's start with this House ethics complaint against Hakeem Jeffries. I suppose this all kind of started back in, I guess, a week or so ago with this tweet about LaMonica McIver. Walk us through this.
Yes, LaMonica McIver is a Democrat House member, I think, from New Jersey, and she got charged by the Justice Department, by U.S. Attorney Alina Habba, because this McIver allegedly assaulted federal officers enforcing our immigration laws. Mm-hmm. And if you attack a federal officer, Democrats used to think that should put you in prison. Now
that's right.
They think apparently you're above the law if you're a Democrat House member. And so Alina Habba brought this indictment. It's actually a federal grand jury is the one who indicted this McIver. And now Hakeem Jeffries is telling the 17 U.S. District Court judges in New Jersey, 15 of whom are appointed by President Obama and President Biden. So 15 of 17, Hakeem Jeffries, the top House Democrat, the House Minority Leader, the House Democrat leader, is telling these 17 judges to fire Alina Habba today at 10 a.m. That is obviously a problem.
Yes.
If it's not obstruction of justice, it's clearly unethical. And so the Article 3 Project filed an ethics complaint late last night with the House Ethics Committee, and we pointed out that this is unprecedented. It's unethical. And what Hakeem Jeffries, an attorney, he should know better. He's telling these 17 judges to violate their judicial ethics, canons 2, 3, and 5 of the Code of Conduct for United States judges. Hakeem Jeffries is telling these 17 judges to do this by firing Alina Habba for purely political reasons.
So what happened at the 10 a.m. meeting?
It's unclear. It's unclear. And I'm hoping that these 17 judges, including these 15 Obama and Biden judges, understand that if they actually follow through with this political hit against Alina Habba, the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey, the Article 3 Project is going to file judicial misconduct complaints against them for violating canons 2, 3, and 5 of the Code of Conduct for United States judges. Good. They cannot take political considerations into account as federal judges when they make these decisions. I don't even know how the hell this is constitutional that judges get to hire and fire executive branch prosecutors like U.S. attorneys under this statute that Congress passed. It's clearly unconstitutional.
Yeah, I mean, my concern, though, Mike, is the mentality, the audacity that it requires for Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries to basically operate like it's a mob. I mean, this is a racket. He thinks that he can instruct these judges. This is an independent branch of the government. They are not supposed to overlap, except for, I guess the inferior courts are under the purview of Congress. But when it comes to telling them what to do, my concern is that this is a cancer, a mentality that has taken hold in the Democrat Party, and it goes all the way up to Minority Leader Jeffries.
Yeah, it goes up to Chuck Schumer on the Democrat side. Remember, yeah. Chuck Schumer's the guy who went to the Supreme Court steps and threatened Supreme Court
That's right.
justices by name if they didn't rule Schumer's way on the abortion case, on the Dobbs case. And these are the same Democrats who organized the illegal obstruction of justice campaigns outside of the homes of conservative Supreme Court justices while they were deliberating on the Dobbs case, causing them to get death threats, causing the 1 a.m. assassination attempt against Justice Kavanaugh, his wife Ashley, and their 2 teenage daughters, forcing these justices to go to safe houses. And so it's obvious these Democrats do not care at all about the Constitution. They want to destroy the Constitution because it's in their way.
Absolutely. It's a speed bump to them and nothing else. So for these 15 of the 17 judges who were appointed by Obama and Biden, first of all, can we talk about how completely off kilter that is? But I mean, lest we forget that MacIver, she was indicted by a grand jury. So it's not Alina Habba. A grand jury saw evidence, they heard arguments, and they're the ones who indicted her, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it was the grand jury of their peers who saw the evidence and said there's probable cause to move forward. And so, yeah, it's the grand jury who brought the indictment. Of course, it was the U.S. Attorney's Office that presented the evidence, and the grand jury returned the true bill. But that means there's probable cause to move forward. And how is there not probable cause? We saw the video of MacIver assaulting federal officers.
Yeah. Okay, so when will we hear about what transpired today from this 10 a.m. meeting?
That's a good question, and I'm hoping that the Article 3 project's ethics complaint have these 17 judges, including 15 appointed by Obama and Biden. I hope that they're now on notice that we're watching. We have filed an ethics complaint against House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries for his unethical meddling, and we will do the same thing against these judges if they fire Alina Habba for doing her job. We saw other federal judges in New York recently fire a New York U.S. attorney who was appointed. Here's how it works. U.S. attorneys are nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate, but the attorney general can appoint an interim U.S. attorney for 120 days. And that interim U.S. attorney can continue in the job if the district court judges allow them to stay on, or the district court judges can fire them. Again, I don't think that's constitutional under a separation of powers, but regardless, there aren't instances in the past where these courts have just fired U.S. attorneys because they didn't like their politics. And now We've seen that happened in New York. And so we're going to explore an ethics complaint against those judges. They just did it with no explanation whatsoever. So that shows you that it was political. And if they do it to Alina Habba, I am warning these 17 district court judges in New Jersey that they will face Article 3 project judicial misconduct complaints if they politicize this process and fire Alina Habba because she indicted a Democrat House member for assaulting federal immigration officers.
Yeah. So are we at that 120-day mark? Is that what brought this meeting on, or was it the indictment?
So we're at the 120-day mark.
Okay.
And so they have to decide at 10 a.m. today whether they're going to fire or keep Alina Habba. What made it so problematic was that House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries stepped in and tried to strong-arm these 17 judges, put inappropriate, unethical, illegal political pressure on these 17 judges to fire Alina Habba, the U.S. attorney in New Jersey. And Hakeem Jeffries was pretty clear why he wanted to do it, because Alina Habba indicted his colleague for assaulting a federal immigration officer.
Unreal. Okay, I have a technical question for you, because you are so wise when it comes to the legal system. So, for attorney general or whatever the position is, that person has there are some limits to their power compared to someone who would permanently fit that position. Is it the same thing when it comes to interim U.S. attorneys versus permanent?
No.
Okay.
For U.S. attorneys, they are the U.S. attorney, whether
Yeah.
they're interim or
Okay.
not. Now, what could happen, from what my understanding of the law, is if these judges reject Alina Habba after her 120-day U.S. attorney appointment expires, then Trump can just appoint her as the first assistant U.S. attorney in New Jersey, and then she becomes the acting U.S. attorney. So these judges are going to get stuck with her no matter what.
Yeah.
So they should probably just let her continue in her job and not get an ethics complaint from the Article 3 project.
Well, to borrow a phrase from a blockbuster, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, because they're going to have her either way. And I think that she's been a thorn in their side, and it is evidenced by the fact that they are trying to get her out. We've got to take a quick break, and we'll be right back on the other side with Mike Davis. Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to you, Mike. I want to get into something that you have very intimate knowledge in from your work in the Senate and with Chairman Chuck Grassley. We are finally 7 years later getting some answers to the Russia hoax, Crossfire Hurricane. I think we all watched with amazement in 2016 when James Comey came out and said, no reasonable prosecutor would charge her. We're ending the investigation. And so many of us were thinking to ourselves, we had heard a lot of the evidence. We didn't even know everything. We obviously didn't know about the thumb drives because we now know, thanks to Chuck Grassley and this declassified annex to the investigation, we now know that those were never even looked at, but there was all of this evidence. And then James Comey comes out and says, not worth it. But now we know. Give me your top line thoughts on what was declassified finally.
I have said this on your show, on 4,500 other media hits for the last 3 years, going back to the Mar-a-Lago raid, where I've been supporting and defending Trump against this unprecedented Republican lawfare. What the Democrats did with President Biden, then Vice President Joe Biden, and it continued when he was the president of the United States, Clapper, Brennan, Comey, so many of these others. It is an illegal criminal conspiracy against rights against President Trump and his aides and his allies under 18 U.S.C. Section 241, a very serious federal civil rights felony. When you politicize and weaponize intel agencies and law enforcement to go after your political enemies, as Team Obama and Team Biden did, that is textbook conspiracy against rights under 18 USC Section 241. They made up the Russian collusion hoax against President Trump. They made up the evidence through the Steele dossier, through Perkins Coie, through Mark Elias. They used this as the predicate to open a bogus investigation on a presidential candidate, the leading presidential candidate in the opposing party. They continued to use this as the president. They got an illegal spy warrant on the on a presidential candidate. They presented this evidence they knew was bogus to the FISA court, so they lied to the FISA court. They got an illegal spy warrant on then candidate Donald Trump. They continued to spy on him and his allies as the president of the United States. They tried to hobble his presidency, and they did this, in my mind, because Hillary Clinton had her illegal home server in her bathroom, not only with our nation's most classified secrets when she was the Secretary of State, which is espionage, but also with her Clinton Foundation pay-for-play foreign bribery scheme evidence, where she's the Secretary of State. She has these shady foreign actors giving millions and millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation. It's underwriting the Clintons' lavish lifestyle, where they're flying around on private jets and living like billionaires. And what I think happened here is when that congressional subpoena went out by the Republicans to get that server, to get those phones, she bleach pitted the server. She destroyed the phones with hammers. She thought the evidence was gone, but maybe, just maybe, our worst enemies like China and Russia hacked her non-secure illegal home server when she was the Secretary of State. They had that evidence. And I think Team Hillary, the campaign, and the Obama administration were worried that that evidence was going to come out before the 2016 campaign. And so they needed to have a deflection, a diversion. So they came up with the Russian collusion hoax so they can say that you can't believe this. This was a dirty campaign trick by President Trump's campaign, the Trump campaign, working with the Russians, colluding with the Russians, so you can't believe that. And you say, oh, Mike, that's crazy. How could you possibly think that? Well, they did the same thing in 2020 with Biden's campaign, with Hunter Biden's laptop of the Biden family corruption. They had the 51 former intel officials working with the CIA who came out there and said that the laptop from hell with all the foreign bribery and corruption for the Bidens had all the hallmarks of a Russian disinformation campaign. You can't believe it. They got the New York Post, America's oldest newspaper, censored and deplatformed, working with big tech, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple. And this is what they're capable of doing. They knew if Hillary Clinton's corruption would have come out before 2016, she would have lost. She thought that she had that campaign in the bag. She was stunned when she lost. Now, fast forward to 2020, President Trump got that Crossfire Hurricane scandal declassified. He was ready to release it the day before he left office. The FBI, the DOJ ran to him and said, you can't release this. It would be a criminal violation of the Federal Privacy Act. So Mark Meadows, the day Trump left office, said, okay, do your Privacy Act review and then publicly release these Crossfire Hurricane records. Well, guess what? They didn't do the Privacy Act review. They did the Mar-a-Lago raid. And maybe, just maybe, they didn't find the Crossfire Hurricane records. And that's why we saw the Biden White House teaming up with these prosecutors around the country like Jack Smith, Fani Willis, Tish James, Nathan Wade, and these other goons, Jay Bratt, where they brought 4 indictments. They tried to bankrupt Trump for non-fraud, 4 indictments where they tried to throw him in prison for life for non-crimes. They tried to throw him off the ballot unconstitutionally in several states. President Biden even tried to take off President Trump's head when Biden underfunded Trump's Secret Service protection twice instead of put a bullseye on him. So the bottom line is this: justice is coming.
Yep. And I cannot wait to see it. I have a question, because if I'm Bill Clinton, or excuse me, if I'm Joe Biden, I'm thinking to myself, man, they pulled out all the stops to protect Hillary Clinton. It didn't work, but they did so much to try to protect her. Why didn't they do that with Joe Biden?
That's a very good question. They turned on Joe Biden because they knew that he was not going to get elected under any circumstance because of his clear mental decline that the American people saw at the debate. So what they tried to do is they tried to prop up Kamala Harris, the most unaccomplished, incompetent, unlikable candidate they can find on the Democrat Party. Kamala Harris makes Hillary Clinton look like a sweetheart. So it's amazing to me that was their plan. They were going to rally around Kamala Harris. What I think they planned on doing, Amanda, is I think that they actually planned on just rigging and stealing the election again, just stuffing these ballot boxes in key precincts and key swing states with ballots like they did in 2020, where we have vote spikes in the middle of the night, where they mass mail ballots out to everyone in the country, even people who have moved and died, get rid of signature verification when they mail in their ballot. And they thought they were going to just pull that off again like they did in 2020. But fortunately, President Trump and his campaign manager, Susie Wiles, and their campaign lawyer, David Warrington, and their election integrity lead at the RNC, and Michael Watley, along with Steve Kenney, who was the lawyer, they did a phenomenal job in 2024 and steal it again. And then President Trump ran such a perfect campaign. Yeah. He was so disciplined. Thank you, Susie Wiles. Yes. He was so disciplined. He ran a perfect campaign, so he won beyond the margin of fraud.
Yep. It was amazing to see. And there were a lot of things, a lot of people who contributed to that. But Mike, as I look back at this, what could be a grand conspiracy. So then, a 5-year statute of limitations would not count if they can manage to string all of these together. Number one, who would you like to see as special prosecutor for something like this? I believe this has got to be someone who is Senate confirmed, right?
Well, it's up in the air. So remember, Judge Cannon got rid of Jack Smith as special counsel down in the Southern District of Florida. That is binding on the Southern District of Florida, but there are other precedents, including Supreme Court precedent, that have not gotten rid of the special counsel. So I guess they could appoint a special counsel outside of the Southern District of Florida. I would not do that. I would just go through a U.S. attorney, maybe the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida.
Right.
Jason Redding Quinones is one of my friends. He's sitting on the Senate floor right now. If we can get Senate Republicans to end their French work week, maybe they can work more than 2.5 days a week, and maybe they can understand that, the high holy month of August recess should be canceled because recess is for kids.
Yep.
Maybe we can get Jason Redding Quinones confirmed in the Senate, and maybe he can open this special grand jury, and maybe like Fort Pierce, Florida, where they did the Mar-a-Lago raid, and get moving on.
Yeah. Okay. So of all of the cast of characters, obviously Comey, Brennan, Weissman, all of these folks who we all know were there at the beginning when it came to the Hillary investigation and Russiagate, and then everything that has transpired since then, including these Chinese driver's licenses that could have been turned into ballots. Who to you is the most indictable as far as their involvement and their culpability? Because I imagine a lot of these people are going to claim that they have plausible deniability and I didn't know what was happening. I just thought it was a bungled investigation. Who do you think we could actually realistically see charges against?
Well, I would say this, that there is evidence that the top leaders in the Obama and Biden administrations were part of this ongoing criminal conspiracy, including President Obama himself, then Vice President Joe Biden. It continued with President Joe Biden, Hillary, Brennan, Clapper, Comey, Susan Rice, Lisa Monaco,
yep.
Jack Smith, all these other prosecutors, Loretta Lynch, Sally Yates. I mean, there are so many people who are potential targets of this grand jury investigation. Fannie Willis, Nathan Wade, Alvin Bragg, Tish James, Jack Smith, Jay Bratt. I mean, there is.
I want them all to go down.
Andrew White, they should all be investigated. They should all lawyer up because justice is coming. I have been talking about this for 3 years. They tried to make this a campaign issue, and the American people gave a referendum to this accountability for this crossfire hurricane criminal conspiracy. Joe Biden made this a campaign issue, including me. Kamala Harris made this include a campaign issue, including using me as their campaign target. So now that the American people have heard this and they voted, it's time to move forward with indictments.
Yeah. I mean, my gosh, I look back at last November, what a fork in the road it was. And look, there are people out there who voted for Trump who I'm sure they don't love everything that's happening. But you look at the binary. If Kamala Harris had won, how much would have changed in this country that couldn't be changed back? I mean, the transparency that we are finally getting through this administration, especially on these types of matters, is just unprecedented. And Mike, tell everybody where they can find out more about you and the Article 3 project.
I appreciate you, Amanda. You have been rock solid during all of this lawfare. You have had me on your show consistently along with John. So thank you to you. Thank you to John. Thank you to both.
Absolutely.
You're American heroes. And you can go to article3project.org, article number 3project.org. And thank you, Amanda.
Well, we love you. You are such an amazing patriot. Thank you for everything that you've done. Mike, we'll have you back on again soon. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Absolutely.